person decides to stop running. And that's what you've done. You stopped. You faced the silence you once feared, the stillness that once made you anxious, and instead of drowning it out with noise, you've listened. You've learned that silence isn't empty. It's full of answers you were too distracted to hear. You start to see that your habits were never just actions. They were votes. Every time you gave in to comfort, you voted for weakness. Every time you chose discipline, you voted for strength. Every time you ignored your potential, you built a life that reflected that neglect. But every single day, you have a choice. That's the beauty of this transformation. It's not about becoming someone new overnight. It's about dying to who you were, one decision at a time. As you rebuild, something strange happens. Your desires begin to change. You no longer want to be liked. You want to be respected, especially by yourself. You no longer chase pleasure. You chase purpose. You no longer crave constant excitement. You crave peace. The things that once thrilled you now drain you, and the things that once felt boring now feel sacred. A quiet morning with discipline feels better than a night of chaos. A simple walk feels better than a party. A deep conversation feels better than attention. That's how you know you're healing, when your definition of happiness begins to mature. You start building structure, not because you have to, but because you finally see how much chaos cost you. You clean your room, not for aesthetics, but because order outside mirrors order inside. You manage your money because you've learned that freedom isn't about spending, it's about control. You take care of your body because you've realized it's not vanity, it's respect. You stop blaming others because you've understood that no one is coming to save you. It's not that the world suddenly became easier, it's that you stopped being fragile. You've developed the strength to bend without breaking, to struggle without surrendering. And then you start feeling something you haven't in years. Momentum. You wake up one day and everything just feels aligned. You realize that the person you used to dream about being is no longer some distant fantasy. It's you, in progress. You're not fully there yet, but you're closer than you've ever been. You're reading more, thinking clearer, acting faster. You're no longer paralyzed by fear or drowned in procrastination. You've stopped romanticizing your pain and started working through it. And slowly, you start inspiring people without even trying. Friends ask how you've changed. Strangers notice your energy. Your silence becomes louder than your old excuses. But here's the truth. It's not always upward. There will be days when you fall back, when the old habits whisper again, when your mind tries to convince you that change was an illusion. That's when you must remember, progress isn't linear. Growth is messy, inconsistent, and brutal, but it's real. It's the quiet battle of dragging yourself out of the mud again and again until one day you stop sinking. You'll relapse into distraction, but this time you'll notice it faster. You'll feel the discomfort of falling off track, and instead of surrendering, you'll correct yourself. Because you've learned something essential. Discipline is not about perfection. It's about return. The faster you return, the stronger you become. As you grow, your relationship with time changes. You stop rushing, you stop comparing. You start realizing that the reason you never felt fulfilled was because you were chasing milestones, not mastery. Now you focus on mastery. Mastering your emotions, your mind, your craft, your response to life. You become patient. You understand that good things take years, not days. You stop craving validation and start craving consistency. You start treating your goals like sacred rituals. Each day you show up not for applause, but for alignment. That's when transformation becomes unbreakable. When you no longer need motivation, only purpose. And soon, people start seeing it. The calmness in your presence, the focus in your eyes, the discipline in your actions. You've become someone different, not by shouting about change, but by living it. You stopped chasing energy and started being energy. You stopped chasing meaning and started creating it. That's what real transformation looks like. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady, patient, and undeniable. And one day, when you look back, you'll see how far you've come. From chaos to clarity, from avoidance to action, from self-doubt to self-respect. You'll realize that you didn't just change your habits, you changed your identity. You became someone who no longer needs external permission to live with purpose. You became someone who can walk alone without feeling lonely. You became someone who can sit in silence and feel peace instead of pain. That's when you'll understand. The goal was never to become more. It was to return to who you were before the world made you forget. You'll realize that the fire you were searching for was never gone. It was just buried under years of distraction. And by facing yourself, you didn't create it. You uncovered it. You didn't find purpose. You remembered it. That's the truth most people will never see. The version of you that feels lost isn't broken. It's waiting. Waiting for you to finally stop running, stop doubting, and start becoming. And when that happens, when you finally stop making excuses and start living intentionally, life won't get easier. You'll just get stronger. You'll stop being a victim of your circumstances and become the architect of your soul. You'll stop looking for meaning and start embodying it. That's the real reward. Not fame, not success, not comfort, but waking up every day knowing you are becoming someone your younger self would be proud of and your older self will thank.
When a person finally accepts that no one is coming to save them, that's when life shifts from chaos to clarity, from confusion to conviction. You begin to understand that the world doesn't owe you anything, not happiness, not validation, not even fairness. It's you who owes yourself the courage to face reality without running from it. You start to build resilience, not from comfort, but from confrontation. You stop wishing for easier circumstances and start wishing for stronger character. Every obstacle becomes a test, not of luck, but of your ability to respond. And that's when life becomes strangely peaceful. You stop flinching at problems because you no longer expect a world without them. You start expecting yourself to endure, to adapt, to overcome. You realize that the very things you once saw as curses, heartbreak, failure, loneliness, were in fact the chisels sculpting you into someone unshakable. You begin to see that pain was never the enemy. It was the teacher you ignored. It taught you how to let go, how to rebuild, how to rely on yourself when no one else could. You understand that suffering was not there to break you, but to purify you, to strip away everything fake, weak, and shallow until only truth remained. That's when gratitude sneaks in quietly in moments you never expected. You start feeling thankful for the nights that broke you because they gave birth to mornings that rebuilt you. And with that gratitude comes perspective. You stop envying others because you finally understand that everyone pays a price, either the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. You start choosing the first one, not because it's easy, but because it's honest. You begin to see how discipline is not just an act of control, but an act of self-love, the ultimate expression of respect for your own potential. You no longer do things out of guilt, but out of commitment. You train not for admiration, but for strength. You read not for escape, but for evolution. You work not to impress, but to build something timeless within yourself. Then, slowly, you stop searching for meaning in the external world. You stop needing to be seen, heard, or understood. You start finding joy in the unseen, in the quiet consistency that no one claps for, because you've realized that true power isn't loud, it's stable. It's the calm of a man who knows he can face whatever comes next. You begin to crave that steadiness more than excitement. You trade chaos for clarity, validation for vision, and comfort for conviction. The noise fades, and what remains is something sacred, a stillness that feels like strength. And soon, people start noticing, but for reasons they can't explain. They'll say you have presence, that you seem grounded, that there's something different about you. But you'll know, it's not magic, it's mastery. You've learned to control what you can and surrender what you can't. You've become dangerous, not in a violent way, but in the way still water is, calm on the surface, yet powerful in depth. The kind of person who doesn't chase storms because he has already weathered them. You'll start walking differently, not faster, not slower, but with intention. You'll stop wasting energy trying to prove yourself because the proof will be in your peace. You'll stop fearing solitude because now you understand it's not emptiness, it's your sanctuary. You'll stop being addicted to noise because silence will start to feel like home. That's when you realize that true transformation was never about becoming someone new. It was about remembering who you were before fear dimmed your light. And that's the irony of life. You spend years trying to escape yourself only to realize that the person you were running from was the one who could save you all along. You'll begin to feel it in your bones, the quiet pride of someone who rebuilt without applause, who rose without noise, who found peace without permission. You'll understand that success was never about reaching the top, it was about not losing yourself on the climb. And one day, when you're sitting in that peace, you'll look back at the chaos that once consumed you, and you'll smile, because you'll know now that the storm wasn't there to destroy you, it was there to reveal you, to show you what you were made of, to strip you down until the only thing left was the truth, that you were never weak, you were just asleep. And the moment you chose to wake up, to stand up, to walk through the fire instead of running from it, that was the moment your real life began.
That's the moment everything starts to align. When you stop trying to control the storm and start becoming the calm inside it. You realize that life will always throw waves, and peace was never about avoiding them. It was about learning to stand tall in the water. You see now that strength isn't about being hard, it's about being unbreakable. The strong man isn't the one who never falls, it's the one who falls 1,000 times and still gets up, still believes, still tries again. That's what separates the lost from the found, the weak from the wise. Not how much they've suffered, but how much they've chosen to grow from it. And so you begin to move differently through the world. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop rushing and start observing. The chaos around you no longer shakes you because you've built a fortress inside yourself that no one can touch. You wake up and understand that your mind is the real battlefield. Every day, the war isn't with others, it's with the whispers inside you, the ones telling you to give up, to give in, to stay small. You learn to silence them, not by force, but by focus. You realize that thoughts lose power when you stop feeding them. You stop entertaining every emotion that comes to visit, because you've learned that not every feeling deserves a response. You start mastering the art of detachment, not indifference, but peace. You can care deeply and still stay centered. You can love fully and still walk away when it's time. You can fail completely and still believe in your worth. That's when you become untouchable. Not because the world stopped testing you, but because you stopped identifying with every test. You start to see how temporary everything is: success, failure, approval, judgment, all just moments passing through. The only constant is your ability to stay grounded in who you are. That's when you begin to understand what the Stoics meant when they said, "The obstacle is the way." You stop fighting resistance and start using it. Every challenge becomes fuel. Every rejection becomes direction. Every pain becomes perspective. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" but "What is this teaching me?" And that question changes everything. You start growing at a rate that surprises even you, because you've turned every setback into a source of strength. And yet, this strength doesn't make you harder. It makes you softer, wiser, more compassionate. You stop seeing life as a competition and start seeing it as collaboration. You stop resenting others for having more and start appreciating your path for making you who you are. You realize that envy is just admiration poisoned by insecurity, and gratitude is the antidote. You start thanking life for the slow path, for the lonely nights, for the failures that kept your ego in check. Because now you see that everything you lost wasn't punishment, it was pruning. Life wasn't cutting you down, it was clearing the dead branches so you could grow taller. Then comes the deeper realization that most people are trapped not by their circumstances, but by their minds. They live on autopilot, reacting to every emotion, chasing every distraction, living for approval that never satisfies. And you were one of them. But now, you're awake. You start valuing your attention like it's your life, because it is. You protect your mind the way a warrior protects his sword. You stop letting everything enter. You start saying no to things that don't align with your peace. Toxic people, shallow conversations, mindless scrolling, self-pity. You begin to see how clarity isn't something you find. It's something you create by removing noise. The more you remove, the more you see. And in that simplicity, life starts to make sense again. You no longer need constant stimulation. You start enjoying slowness, the sound of your breath, the rhythm of your footsteps, the silence between thoughts. You start seeing how little you actually need to be fulfilled. Peace, discipline, purpose. That's enough. You stop craving the highs because you no longer fear the lows. You start trusting yourself to handle both. That's when you begin to feel something powerful. Not happiness, but wholeness. A quiet completeness that doesn't depend on anything external. And when you reach that place, you stop needing to prove anything. You don't need to announce your healing, your growth, or your success. Your energy speaks it for you. You no longer chase people because you understand that what's meant for you won't require you to lose your peace. You stop demanding closure because you realize silence is closure. You stop waiting for apologies because you understand that forgiveness was never for them, it was for you. You start freeing yourself from every invisible chain you ever put on yourself: fear, doubt, guilt, expectation, and you walk lighter, freer, calmer. Then you start to see that life isn't about control at all. It's about alignment. The more you try to control, the more resistance you create. The more you align with truth, the easier everything flows. You begin to act not from fear, but from wisdom. Not from impulse, but from intention. You become the kind of person who moves with purpose in a world that moves in panic. You stop rushing to get there because you realize there is no there. There's only here, and how you show up in it. You start living like every day is practice for your soul. Every moment is training. Every decision is sculpting you into the person you're meant to be. And one day it clicks. Peace isn't a destination. It's a discipline. It's built in the way you think, react, and live every single day. You stop chasing happiness like it's something you can earn, and you start realizing it's something you become. It's the byproduct of living in alignment with your values. When your words match your actions, when your choices match your purpose, when your inner world matches your outer world, that's when you find peace. And that's when life finally feels right. Not because everything is perfect, but because you've stopped fighting what is. And as you walk through the world now, people won't understand how you remain calm when others panic, how you stay centered when everything falls apart, how you smile when things don't go your way. But you'll know, you've built this peace brick by brick, pain by pain, choice by choice. You've turned your suffering into wisdom, your loneliness into clarity, your discipline into freedom. You've become the calm in the chaos. You've become unshakable. Not because life got easier, but because you did.
Feel something you haven't in a long time. Pride. Not the kind that shouts for recognition, but the quiet kind that comes when you keep your word to yourself. You'll start waking up and realizing the day feels lighter, not because it got easier, but because you got stronger. You'll start to notice how the smallest wins, finishing a book, choosing discipline over distraction, saying no when it's hard, begin to build a version of you that feels more real, more alive. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming aligned. You stop chasing happiness and start chasing growth. Because happiness was never supposed to be the goal. It was supposed to be the result of living with purpose. And soon you begin to understand that your pain wasn't a punishment. It was a message. Every breakdown, every low, every sleepless night was your soul trying to wake you up. It was never about losing everything. It was about losing the illusion that the life you were living was enough. The truth is, the real you, the one buried under years of fear and comfort, has been waiting patiently for you to come back home. It doesn't want perfection. It wants effort. It doesn't need talent. It needs honesty. Because when you finally start moving in the direction of the person you were meant to be, life stops feeling like survival and starts feeling like purpose. And one day, when you look back, you'll realize you didn't just change your habits. You resurrected yourself. You'll see that the life you once hated wasn't broken. It was just misaligned. It wasn't the world holding you down. It was your own resistance to growth. And the moment you chose to face your reflection instead of escaping it, that's when you began to rebuild your soul. You stopped asking, "How do I fix my life?" and started asking, "How do I fix me?" And that's the question that changes everything. Because from that moment on, every decision, every action, every moment of effort becomes a step toward becoming someone you can finally be proud of. Not because the world says so, but because you know, deep down, you earned it. There comes a moment when the silence inside you becomes too loud to ignore. When you stare at the ceiling at 2 a.m., scrolling mindlessly, and something whispers, "This isn't who I was supposed to be." It's not depression. It's not burnout. It's the quiet realization that somewhere along the way, you traded the fire in your chest for comfort, traded your purpose for distraction, and built a version of yourself that doesn't feel like home anymore. You don't hate your life. You hate who you've become inside it. The version of you that breaks promises to yourself, that knows what needs to be done, but does nothing, that keeps waiting for a right time that will never come. And every day, that gap between who you are and who you could be stretches wider, until all that's left is the ache of wasted potential. You scroll past motivation, hoping for a spark, but it never lasts. Because deep down, you know it's not inspiration you need. It's transformation. And transformation hurts. It means facing the parts of yourself you've been avoiding, the habits that rot you slowly, the lies you tell to justify your comfort, the excuses that sound noble but are only fear in disguise. It begins the moment you stop pretending that fine is enough. The moment you admit that the person in the mirror is not your enemy, but your creation, shaped by choices you've made and ones you've avoided. It's not your job, not your parents, not your past that's holding you down. It's the identity you keep feeding every time you surrender to distraction, every time you silence your inner voice just to avoid the discomfort of truth. The version of you that sleeps late, complains about fate, and dreams without discipline. That version has lived long enough. It's time to bury it. Because the longer you cling to it, the more your soul begins to suffocate under its weight. You start to forget what clarity feels like, what direction feels like, and soon, mediocrity becomes normal. You start calling it peace, when it's really just numbness. You confuse being busy with being fulfilled. You say you're tired, but what you really are is unaligned. Because exhaustion doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from doing too little of what matters. So what do? You begin again. You strip away the layers of identity you built to please others. The need to be liked, the fear of being judged, the endless chase for approval. And you start from the raw truth. You tell yourself, "I've had enough of my own excuses." That's the day your real life begins. You start small, waking up early not to impress anyone, but to reclaim control. You start moving, reading, reflecting, creating. Anything that reminds you that you're alive. And with every act of discipline, every small victory, every moment of honesty, you start becoming someone you can respect again. You'll fail. You'll relapse into comfort. You'll doubt yourself. But that's the process. Because healing from mediocrity feels like grief. You're mourning the death of the weaker self you once protected. And slowly, without realizing it, you start to feel something you haven't in a long time. Pride. Not the loud, boastful kind, but the quiet pride that comes from keeping promises to yourself. That's when you understand that you never hated your life. You only hated the version of yourself that kept settling for less than what you were capable of. The life you want isn't waiting somewhere out there. It's waiting inside you, buried under layers of laziness, fear, and forgotten potential. And the day you decide to face that version and rise above it, that's the day everything begins to change. Not because the world shifts, but because you finally do. Because rebuild yourself from the ashes of your own neglect. It won't happen in a day, and it won't feel beautiful at first. In fact, it'll feel like loss. You'll lose interest in things that used to comfort you. The mindless scrolling, the fake validation, the empty dopamine rush. You'll start feeling disconnected from people who once felt like your world, because you'll see how much of your identity was tied to being accepted by them. You'll stop laughing at meaningless jokes, stop entertaining hollow conversations, stop pretending you're fine. This part feels lonely, because rebirth always begins in isolation. It's where your new self starts whispering through the noise, the self that no longer wants to escape, no longer wants to numb the pain, but wants to understand it. And in that silence, you'll realize that discipline isn't punishment, it's liberation. Every act of control is a rebellion against the version of you that gave up too easily. Every moment you choose focus over distraction is a declaration of war on your former self. You'll start to notice how much energy returns when you stop leaking it into meaningless pleasures. Suddenly, the world sharpens. You see things clearly again, how fragile time is, how rare real peace feels, how wasted potential hurts more than failure ever could. And you'll begin to crave that sharpness, that raw awareness of being alive, even when it burns. Because you'll understand that comfort is just slow decay disguised as safety. The real danger was never in failure. It was in forgetting that you were capable of more. You'll start building new habits, not because some book told you to, but because you'll feel the difference between chaos and order. You'll feel the relief of having a purpose, not a grand destiny, just the simple, steady pursuit of becoming someone worth respecting. And slowly, the inner noise quiets. You stop arguing with yourself. You stop needing validation. You stop performing for the world. Instead, you start keeping promises, small ones, invisible to others, but powerful enough to rebuild your soul. You wake up when you said you would. You read when you'd rather scroll. You train your body, not for looks, but for resilience. You meditate, not to feel spiritual, but to remember who's in control. You begin to live like a craftsman, shaping your mind and actions, as if your soul were a sculpture in progress. And one day, the reflection staring back at you no longer looks like a stranger. It looks like someone you've been chasing for years, disciplined, calm, grounded, unshakable. Not perfect, but real. The world around you won't understand. They'll say you've changed, and they'll be right. They'll call you distant because they can no longer distract you. They'll call you arrogant because you finally value your peace. They'll call you obsessed because you've replaced gossip with goals. But you'll smile quietly, because you'll know that you've simply stopped living in reverse. You're no longer waiting for life to fix itself. You're becoming the kind of person who can handle it when it doesn't. You'll start to see beauty in struggle, meaning in silence, and strength in solitude. You'll realize that every great transformation begins when a person decides to stop running. And that's the truth. The life you want won't come from another quote, another video, or another moment of motivation. It'll come from the day you finally decide that you're done negotiating with weakness. You'll stop asking for a new life and start building one. You'll start treating your mornings as sacred, your mind as a temple, and your time as proof of what you value. Because every minute you waste is a vote for the version of you that never makes it. Every disciplined act, every moment of honesty, every refusal to quit. Those are the bricks that build the version of you you've been dreaming about. And one day, not far from now, you'll wake up and realize you don't need to escape anymore. You'll stop chasing peace because you'll already be living it. You'll stop searching for meaning because you'll have built it with your own hands. The same life that once felt like a cage will start to feel like a canvas. And the same world that once felt too heavy will feel like a test you're proud to take. Because you'll know something that most never figure out. The life you've been waiting for was never somewhere else. It was buried underneath the version of you that was afraid to begin. And the moment you decided to face yourself, to rise, to rebuild, to fight, that's when everything changed.